Hello, everybody. It's Peter here from AJS, also representing our sister business in New Zealand, G&A Warburtons. And once again, we have delight in taking you into a jeweller's workshop somewhere in Australasia. And this week we're heading to the North Island of New Zealand to sunny Napier and the even sunnier Gerard Smith. Hi, Gerard. How are you?
Hi, Peter. Thank you. Yeah, good. Thank you.
It's great to have you on board, Gerard. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, this is your first time with us as a jeweller in our online demonstrations. And today, the topic of our conversation is welding. And the reason for that is because you have some lovely welders in your possession. Just before we get into that, Gerard, let's just have a bit of a background to your business. Just tell us a bit about your business there in Napier.
Yeah, we're manufacturing jewellers. We've got a retail store with a visible workshop, and people come and see us. Really, most of what we do, vast majorities, are custom made to order work. We obviously make stock for the store, but happily do repairs and valuations and whatever people come in to see us for. We're always pleased to see them.
Okay, and how many staff, including yourself, do you employ there, Gerard?
There's 3 of us here, so we're just a small store.
Okay. And how long have you been going in Napier?
I've been going about 30 years, about
Wow.
15 years in this business. And I had a previous business which I sold quite a few years back. So,
Okay. So I dare say you've built up quite a reputation for yourself in that time.
yeah, we know a lot of our clients by our first name, and there are advantages as having been around for a while. But yeah, you're only as good as your next job, so you've just got to keep trying for people.
Yeah, yeah. So you probably have supplied like engagement rings to someone and then supplied an engagement ring to the daughter of that person or something like that.
Yeah, well, I've been doing this for 40 years, so it wasn't only in the last few weeks that I did engagement rings for the grandchildren of certain. Admittedly, I think the first people were second time arounders and were a little bit later in life, but I was thinking I'll definitely be doing something else by the time the great grandchildren roll around. So,
wow, yeah, no, that's an amazing story. So there you are. Okay, Gerard. Now onto the welder then. So I can see in the background there you've got a Orion laser welder. Now, how long have you had that in your possession?
yeah, we've had it about 18 months. We bought it off Warburtons, and very pleased with the different options it gives us in the workshop. Previously, any laser work or anything that was suitable really for laser welding, we were sending to a colleague down in Wellington who did a great job for us. But it got to the point where we thought we'd take the plunge and start doing it in-house.
Okay, so you've removed a cost to the business there, and obviously you've saved some time as well.
Yeah, with what we were paying out, it pretty much serviced a laser over 3 years is how we justified it to ourselves.
Okay.
But the real advantage, I think, there is that, but the other real advantage is it's really sped up some of our manufacturing process, especially if we're doing handmades, soldering claws onto bezels and under bezels. We can just line it up and zap it in our hands, which are a great clamp and under magnification. Yeah. And we can just tag it in place and make sure we're absolutely 100% happy with the location before we go on and solder it in a more traditional way.
Okay.
And it allows us to be very consistent and very accurate, and saves a lot of time on binding and fluxing and things moving and bubbling around. And then, of course, if you're doing CAD work, it's fantastic for clipping together CADs, but again, before you go on and solder them in a traditional way. So there's all sorts of advantages. We find that we're just using it constantly. It's pretty much on in the background, and there's always someone clipping away at it now. And it's really dragging the times down on a lot of jobs. So that's really the main advantage we've found in buying it.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's what you would have been looking for, I'm sure. So how long had you been considering a welder before you actually got one?
Looking at it for 4 or 5 years. Wanting wanting the time to be right, and also just finding the right machine and something that was going to fit well into the workshop.
Okay, and no looking back now. So tell us about the education process, coming to terms with learning how to drive one of these things, then, Jared.
Yeah, it's a little bit daunting when you first get it and set it up. And the way we started was we just picked things up out of the scrap and just had the practice before we started on customers' work. And fortunately, I'd attended a day that Warburton's had put on in Auckland, where the reps were out from Orion and had different machines there and were giving some tutorials. So that got me started, which was great. But really, it's just time spent on the machine, and also, coming to terms with how to set it. And I had some very good advice early on to have it set quite low and then just dial up, as opposed to blowing holes in things, which was very helpful advice. And myself and my team, we're pretty au fait with it now. We're very confident with what we're doing with it. There's some fine claw work and things like that I think there's always room for improvement that we're still working on. But it's certainly a pretty cool and exciting tool to use. The jewelers are always keen to get on there, and it just adds another dimension to what we do.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's interesting you mentioned about the visit from the Orion people, because they do come to Warburton's every year, as they do to AJS branches around Australia. And that is a good way to reconnect with them and get a few more tips. So, yeah, I'm sure you'll be looking to their next visit as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely attend the next time that's held on. It's often around the trade fair times, if it was anything like last year. So, yeah,
right,
we'll look forward to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. And what are the metals that you use then, Jared?
We're mostly 18-karat gold and platinum. We've got all the different, we've bought the wires and all the different metals so we can switch between. We do a little bit in silver, but generally it's the certain jobs that it's extremely good for, such as sizing or repairing two-tone wetters, where the different metals expand at different rates. And really that's probably the main strength that we've found with it. And feeding wire in to platinum two-tone wetters, you get a really seamless, literally seamless result. But yeah, the other thing that we're using it a lot in is repairs, fine chain rejoins. We've found some really good settings for repairing fine rope chains that were always a nuisance any other way. And it means too, it's not annealing the metal next to where you're working, so it's less prone to break and discolor. So yeah.
Beautiful. Now, Jared, just going back a little bit, so when you're choosing your welder, you've got obviously the choice of laser and pulse arc. So what was your thinking there when you made that decision?
Yeah, look, we ended up I purchased an Orion pulse welder at the same time.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's the laser will do everything that the pulse welder will do. Yeah. But there's certain jobs where it's just a lot quicker to use the pulse, especially joining jump rings and endless chains and that sort of thing, and also working around quite fragile stones. There's a little bit less risk with the pulse welder for building on there. So yeah, in the end, we decided to take the plunge and get them both at the same time. And I haven't regretted that. But if you're choosing between them, I would definitely go for the laser. As I said, the laser will do everything the pulse welder will do, but not vice versa.
Okay, fine. Now, for people considering getting a welder, there is actually a tool on both the Warburton's and the AJS websites, which is a welder selector. So I'll put a link to those in the comments here. Yes. So if people want to give that a whirl, that'll help them make a decision on which welder would be best for their needs. So, yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier something about a Facebook page that you're involved with as well.
Yeah, it's a bit voyeuristic. I don't really post a lot on there, but I found a laser welders for jewelers and metalworkers Facebook page, which is an international one. There's a lot of people on there, and there's 8 or 9 posts a day, and it's been a real mine of information. They compare welders in different types as well, but really they talk a lot about, and also a bit of troubleshooting. But really, there's a lot of tutorials on there, and there's a couple of guys. There's one guy, Scott Isaacs, who I've been watching, who's from the States, who's a remarkable operator, and the beauty of what he does, he discusses his settings and things a lot, which a lot of the others don't, and he's extremely skilled. So, you know, there's people like that are very generous with their time on these groups, and it really is a big educational tool when you're starting out with it.
No, that's a big find, that's for sure. So you get a daily dose of education along the way.
And it keeps you motivated, and also you see what people are doing. You think, oh yeah, okay, it hadn't occurred to me we could use it for that. So yeah, it has been
okay.
good.
Well, we'll post a link to that Facebook group as well. That's great. Yeah. So just to wind up then, Gerard, and thank you very much for your time today. What would you recommend to somebody who's thinking about getting a laser or a pulse arc welder? What would you suggest they do?
I certainly, I've used some friends' machines as well. I'm very happy with Orion. I'm very pleased with my decision to go down that route. The other factor for me, which was big, was the fact that you guys in Australia and Warburton's was supporting them locally. If anything went wrong, you had access to people from Orion. There were other machines that we looked at. There was no one in Australasia that was really carrying the agencies, and it certainly it gives me a level of comfort to know that if something did go, heaven forbid, was wrong with the machine, that there is some support locally that we can talk to.
No, great advice. Well, Gerard, thank you so much for sharing your insights into your laser and pulse arc welder. And we'll look forward to catching up again sometime in the future and see what you're up to in that regard.
Thank you very much, Peter. It's been a pleasure.